campers, check it out, 2015 Defender. Have they cracked it after 30 years? Stick around, let's have a look. So what's it like after 3 years in a Defender? Actually it's not bad. The engine, which is a lot quieter than it used to be, obviously. TDI makes a lot of noise. And at least you can hear yourself speak, have a conversation. It's quite torquey. It's a van engine. You know, the transit van, any other Sprinter van, same kind of thing, same kind of performance, which means you're probably one of the faster guys on the road. Can you hustle this thing around? Yes, you can. Surprisingly, for something that weighs 2 tons and it has solid axles, suspension is really, really stiff, and you shock and you bounce across a whole lot of things that you normally would just take quite smoothly in any other car. So that's one thing to take consideration of. I think it's because of the payload, which is about 1,300 kilos, which is more than most vans and a lot more than most pickups. It's pretty nippy, it's pretty nimble, it's quite stiff around the corners, which is a good thing, I guess. And sometimes you can surprise yourself. Sometimes you can get into trouble. So let's have a look around the outside and see how it looks after 3 years. So how does it stack up? Well, I'll tell you what, it's been really good so far. There's been hardly anything wrong with it, which is quite amazing. About a week after we got the car, we put the spacers on it to give it a bit more turning circle, because the roads here are quite narrow. There's little village lanes that you have to go through. So to help that, and because the turning circle is just so big, we've put in some spacers. Maybe not be able to see it there. Maybe over here. There we go. And I will admit to you, I was a little bit worried maybe that the bearings would give up earlier than they should. But there's been no issues at all. It actually drives quite stable on the road. On the highway, it's just epic. If you do 110, 120, it just sits there all day, no worries, and you can almost let your hands off the wheel. Have you ever done that in a Defender? What else do we have? The aerial can raise and lower. One of these older ones, it's not electric, so when the radio goes off, it doesn't go down. It can be a little bit annoying if you forget to do so in one of those washing car washers, where it just bends the whole thing and it snaps off, and then you got nothing. Doesn't really work that well anyway. The reception on the radio is not as good as in other cars in the area, but at least you have that. Obviously the hump on the bonnet, this is for the engine. It's quite a tall engine. I believe the sump of the engine is straight, and on the TDI it goes up a bit to allow the axle a bit of room so the engine can sit lower. Here there's no room for that, so basically it's sitting on the axle with a big sump, so it pushes everything up, and it's a long stroke motor as well. Besides that, it's been pretty reliable. It hasn't done anything wrong. You may not know, but it's got a particle filter, the 2.2 these days, which is good. We had one little issue with it when we took it up to England again, a long drive, and it was the middle of summer in England, in London, traffic. We were stopped at a red light, and this little this little light came on the dashboard, which says like a particle filter. But to look it up in the manual, what is all that? But it went away after like half an hour, and it's never come back since. And we just left it. So besides that, one other thing went wrong. See that little red light when you open the door? It's supposed to go off, right? Sometimes it doesn't go off. It stays on while you're driving. Other times it goes off. It's a random thing. It is a Land Rover. These things happen. And that's all that's gone wrong with it, which is quite amazing. Except for the engine, nothing's gone wrong with it, except we bought this car off the factory floor. And if you do that, you're sometimes obliged to take it to the dealer, get your dealer stamp in your book, keep the value of the car high, that kind of thing. I'm not sure that's a good idea. 800 euros for a plain old oil change on a Ford Transit engine is a rip-off. 27 euros a litre for oil, and this strange Castrol Highline Executive oil which they use, I don't know. So going to the dealer is actually not a Land Rover dealer. I think it's more of a Range Rover dealer. and you're going to have to deal with the fact that you're going to pay those prices. So we've done that once, and there's no need to do that anymore. It's not like it's going to do anything different to a transit van. Basically, you just check the oil levels on the gearbox, transfer case, the axles, make sure all the oil's in the car, and in this case it is. So underneath you can have a look for yourself. What do you think? That looks pretty dry to me, which is quite unusual for a Land Rover. We'll make the jokes, we'll think it's really funny. This is the SE version, which means you have a choice of either black or body color grille, light surrounds, which is quite cool. We've had these wheels. Look at that, those are quite nice. These are from the dealer, from the factory. Quite a nice option. Actually, you think, okay, we need something more sporty, but you get used to these, and these are really nice. Brings us to the tires. What does a tire look like after 75,000 Ks? Well, check this out. It's like brand new, man. Pretty good going, eh? Continental cross contact 80s. These are mud and snow tires. The profile is more road biased, and this is what they look like after 75,000 kilometers. I think that's pretty good going. It's got about 3 or 4 mil of tread there. A lot of other cars cannot say the same. Have a look at the back. Look at that, that's pretty good, huh? So yeah, here's the dashboard, no frills version. We haven't cleaned it. This is the way it is every single day. Actually, it's held up pretty well. It's not too bad. The leather seats, wow, epic. These things are amazing for a long journey. We spend hours and hours behind the wheel, and I can tell you something, you come out the other side, and actually my back, it doesn't have that crick in it that it has in the TDI. And so if you can get a hold of these things, as I've said in the previous video, check it out, very cool. One thing we have got here as a note to luxury is electric windows. But yeah, you know, it's a bit annoying. As soon as you turn off the ignition, everything stops. Most cars give you that little bit just to close your windows, or if you push the remote twice, all the windows go up. That's also luxury, isn't it? The Defender, sometimes, yeah, you got to leave the engine running a bit longer than you want to, just to get the windows up and closed. There we go. Another thing we have is AC. Look at that. Works pretty well, although you've only got a couple of vents here and some at the bottom. And as you know, in a previous video, we've had a look at this control knob here, which basically doesn't give you air just to your feet, except if you do that. And that's a little trick they played at Land Rover. I think they've got quite a sense of humor down there. So that works pretty well, especially out here when you're in the heat. You might think aircon, come on dude, you know, you're getting soft and all. And I agree, yeah, we're missing the flaps at the front. But on the other hand, out here, it gets murderously hot, so you kind of need it. Obviously, Defender trays. What are we looking at? Pop rivets. Look at that, this is a brand new car. Pop rivets even showing. Hand built, look at that. Look at these little folds in here. Here's the back, underneath, back suspension. Back axle. All looks rather clean, doesn't it? This little step I put on an aftermarket just to help get up. A lot of people drive this car. I don't know who did this. I haven't owned up to it yet. So yeah, as I said, this is an SE version, which means carpets. Can you believe it? Quite a cool job they've done here of trimming it all around the gear poke, all around the gears, everything. Holds up pretty well actually if you look at it for this amount of time, 75,000 Ks. Back door gives you a little pocket here, slight little nod to luxury as well. Carpeting in the back. This is also quite strange. This is the plastic surround which actually surrounds the window, the rear window, but this is a panel van. So they've left this in, along with the grab handle over there, yet there's no window, and there's nothing, this is just bare aluminium. But there's carpets in here. It does help a little bit with the stones flicking out the tires. Bit of sound deadening, but you still do hear the tires on the highway. This rubber mat has helped, keeps the carpet in the back. Pretty cool, because we do a lot of loads on the highway with this. So yeah, on the whole, the car's held up very well. No issues at all. We do a lot of mileage. Well, I guess 15,000 miles, 25 a year. That's quite a lot for a Landy. The only part that has worn out is the floor mat for the driver. This is some kind of plastic material. I think you can recognize what it looks like, but it's totally gone here. Obviously there's your accelerator foot, and this is for the brake and the clutch. And yeah, that would need replacing sometime, I would guess. What is cool is the clear covers on the indicators, on the side repeaters, which is rather nice. Hinges are the same, door handles are the same as 20 years ago. Door card is the same. Still has this, even though it has electric windows. And here the dashboard. What has changed in the last 10, 15 years? Nothing. So yeah, this is a black on black. It's got the Cubby Box in there. Do you want to talk about the Cubby Box? I don't know why it's there. It's a bit of a mystery. Obviously there is no storage whatsoever. There is this little section, little shelf here. Basically you can put your cell phone in there and a couple of keys and a pencil. In here, it's like a black hole. Stuff disappears in there and you never look at it. You never find it back. You end up buying new stuff because you forget you've got it. I don't know if you've ever opened it. It's full of stuff. Stuff? Yeah. I don't know what's in there, but it's full. And basically it's not that handy to have one big box. It's better to have a few little pockets everywhere else. But besides that, on the top here, this is handy for a pen, a couple of glasses or something you need. The cup holders are handy because, yeah, you know, you're always on the road with a cup of coffee or a Coke or something. In the back, obviously, yeah, legroom is at a premium down here. This is about all you get if the driver in front is as tall as me. I can't sit behind myself for longer than 10 minutes. Better in the middle. So if you ever get in the back, get in the middle. It's the better spot. You got the best view. Check this out. Sit a little bit higher. You got these side lights over here, which is nice. You've got a handle, which you don't have on the passenger door, which is also quite strange. Up here, no mirror. We don't need that, do we? And it's a pleasant place to be. And you got this wide screen. It's like a 21:9 television, don't you think? It's one of those big screens. You're just checking out the world, and it's quite good. The seats are quite firm. It's obviously leather. It doesn't use as much in the back as it does in the front, as this is quite a bit of a cargo carrier. Carry around a lot of stuff. Heavy weights, doesn't mind. The engine. What can we say? It sits quite far back, like a TDI, but it's a lot higher, as you can see. It really sits up there. 2.2 litre, common rail, TDCI. It's got about 122 horsepower on paper, 360 Newton meters, which is enough. As I said, you get around quite quickly. It's pretty good at towing. Once you're towing trailers above 2.5 tons, you do notice it, especially on the hills, on the highway. It's quite a battle there along with the trucks on the right-hand lane, but you get there a lot easier than you would in a TDI, of course. It has a bit of trouble coming up to speed on the highway. So if you're pulling in onto the highway and you're trying to pick up speed between 60 and 110, that takes a little bit of time, and you need to be patient with that. But besides that, it's quite economical 10 liters to the 100. I think that's okay for a van, which is what this is, considering it weighs 2 tons as well. And as I said, it's been reliable. It doesn't use any oil. It doesn't overheat, which are all the common traits of a Land Rover engine. And basically we're quite happy with that. The only thing is the gearbox, which is quite clunky. It's quite positive, but it doesn't have a nice smooth shift. The i380 and the TD5 and the TDI 300 TDI are just like butter, just so smooth. And I really miss that about my old Disco one, with it. You just throw it in gear and push it around. This thing, you really need to push it in. And obviously there's a bit of play in the gearbox, in the axles, and in the transfer case. So you got that clunk, which you need to be aware of. What they have done with Land Rover to try and cure that, and it's pretty difficult to demonstrate, is that when you change gears and you're running along at 2000 revs and you change gears and you let off the gas, it takes a long time to get back. So if you're at, it hangs onto the revs. Can you see that? So you're running along at 2000 revs and you change gear, it really takes a long time to go back to idle, which is I think engineered into there. Especially if you're going from 3rd to 4th or 4th to 5th, 5th to 6th, you're changing up, you let off the gas pedal and the revs don't drop back. It sort of hangs there and drops back again. Or the revs come from 3000 and they drop to 2.5 and they wait there until, because that is probably what they predicted the revs would be when you change to the next gear. So they've kind of engineered that into the engine management system, that it hangs onto the revs to try and protect the transmission a little bit, make it easier for you to change gear. Obviously, if you own an older Landy, you'll know exactly what this means, and you're already used to it, so you find yourself second guessing it a little bit, but in the end you kind of get used to it. The thing is, I drive this car and the other one probably on alternate days, so it's always a comparison between the two, and it is a little bit strange where you're not really in charge of the engine. You know, the engine's actually doing its own thing, and it's not like a mechanical device connected like in a TDI, except this is electronic. So the accelerator pedal is not exactly connected to anything. It's just a solenoid connected to the engine management system. So yeah, if you want to have a look underneath the passenger seat, there's a whole bank of computers and stuff. There's a lot more electronics in here than there should be, maybe. There's traction control. Sometimes if you're hustling along on a tight corner, the traction control light does come on and flash. When I'm doing the same thing in the TDI, I don't have that little light flashing, because there is no light flashing. Basically, I have a little bit more confidence in the TDI, maybe because of the stiffer suspension in this, and maybe the tires, I'm not sure, but BFG muds are surely not better on the road than these Continentals. But either way, these are the tiny things. The clock is really cool. It's got a plus and a minus. None of this fiddling around if you're changing continents. The radio, not very good. It's got some volume in it, but no bass at all. You're gonna have to figure out something for yourself, put a subwoofer in. We asked for that at the dealer. It was a €500 option. Everything is an option. The radio is an option. Can you believe it, on a car like this? You're buying just an empty slate basically, and you have to figure out everything yourself. So we asked the dealer about, yeah, put the subwoofer in. It's on the spec sheet. You can option it. And he said, don't bother about it. It's not that good. Do it yourself. You get a lot better out of it. It's been 3 years. We haven't done anything with it because it's a work van. We don't get around to it. Besides the rest, it does have a USB port, which is handy to charge your phone with. And it has Bluetooth to connect your phone, so it has a hands-free ability, which is quite nice for an old radio like this with a CD player in it. When last have you seen a CD player, let alone a tape deck? So yeah, it's pretty hard wearing, this. It is plastic, of course. The steering wheel has a little bit of leather around it, a nod to luxury, which is quite nice. But it hasn't changed the look of it a bit since 10 years now. The light switch, the indicator stalk, the wipers, that hasn't changed for 30 years, would you believe it? It's still the same thing that's going on in there, so there's that. Obviously the gearbox has changed a little bit. Transfer box, correct me if I'm wrong, but the transfer box might be the same as 20 years ago, who knows. The axles, all little changes, but basically underneath it's all the same as the original 110 that came out in 1983. Let me know if I'm correct or not. Conclusions. Are we happy with this car? Have they cracked it, or is it a disappointment after 3 years of ownership? Does the reputation of the Land Rover stack up? Is it that unreliable And fourthly, do you have the same feeling that you have in an older model? Well, first off, I think it's great. They've done really well. I think finally they've managed to make something that's kind of reliable if you just treat it with a bit of mechanical sympathy. Nothing will go wrong really. It's very capable, it can carry huge loads. It can tow 3.5 tons, which is epic, and even more in an emergency, I suppose. Does it drive well? Yes, very stable on the roads. I don't know if it has anything to do with the spaces underneath, probably not. But the tires are good, the engine is strong enough for sedate progress. You can overtake tractors and all of that with confidence, which in the older versions you're just a little bit underpowered for that. The fit and finish, yes, the doors close pretty well. One slam, not two. Check that out over there. Basically the carpet is the only thing that's worn under your feet with the pedals. Basically the rest, the carpet's pretty strong, the seats are very comfortable. The paintwork is held up perfectly. Basically the only thing that's gone wrong is the aerial snapped off, but that was my fault, so we had to replace that. And the other thing is the little light that comes on the dashboard for the door. Oh, wait a minute, check it out, it's still on here now. See, it should go off. Unless I'm missing something, and you let me know what that is. So basically I'm giving it a thumbs up. I think Defender have done really well. I don't believe any other manufacturer has managed to keep a car on the road unchanged for 30 years, practically unchanged, like Land Rover has. Everybody else calls it a Golf Mark 7, but it's changed completely from the original one. There's nothing in common. This has so much in common with the original one. It's basically unchanged. It's just tweaked a little bit. So for that, you got to commend them. They've put a really nice product out there. Obviously the market has dwindled. The army has moved on because they don't need this kind of thing anymore. But yeah, there's always guys out there, the farmers and the guys who need to tow heavy loads, the forestry guys, all the guys who need to get somewhere. This thing still has it. Even other cars with all their electronics and anti-slip and ABS and all of that, this car can still get you there. So guys, thanks for watching. It's been really interesting just to have you a quick look around this car. This hasn't really changed in about 30 years now, and it still is that good. A thumbs up for me. Well done Land Rover. Well done all you guys who are driving these around. Give us a wave when you see us next. Give us a like down below. I'd love to hear some comments. Hope you've been entertained. Hope you've been informed a little bit, and we'll catch you on the next one. See in my TDI when I'm doing the same thing.